Welcome to the course C# and .NET Programming. In this video, we are going to see how to create validation controls in ASP.NET Web Application. The validation controls are used to validate the user inputs. And there are various validation controls available in the ASP.NET toolbox. That will be a require field validator, range validator, regular expression validator, compare validator, custom validator, and the validation summary control. And now we'll see what is the use of each and every validation control. The required field validations are used to ensure the fields in the web page is not empty or not left out blank. The compare validator is used to compare the value of the one input control to the another. Mainly we'll use it for the confirm passwords and the confirming email addresses. And range validator, this will use to check whether the value will be fall within this specific range. And regular expression validators are used to specify a matches with the specified regular expression patterns. And custom validators allow the developers to define their own validation logic. And finally, the validation summary, which is a control that displays the report of the all validations errors occurred in that particular web page. And to implement this validation control, I am going to use with the Visual Studio. The environment is the Visual Studio 2019. And once it is open, you create a new project. And there I am going to use with ASP.NET Web Application, .NET Framework with C#. And I am going to give a project name, Validation Demo. And once it is created, I am going to create an empty project. So just create an application with an empty project. So once the project gets created, we are going to create a new web page. So go to add, and then adding, we are going to add a web form. So I'm going to just create a web form where I'm going to demonstrate all the validation controls. So I'm just going to give the heading is validation controls. So the first validation control I'm going to use is the required field validator. So to start with, I'm going to the toolbox. I'm going to take a label, and the label I'm going to add with the text is I'm going to get the name, and followed by I'm going to use with the text box. So the text box, if the field is left as empty, I need to give a validated message that the field not to be empty. So to specify that, basically we write a script, we take the value of the text box, check that field is empty or not. But the ASP.NET toolbox provides the control itself called as validation control. So I will just add a button also below it. So just add a button. And now this text box only I have to validate that the field not to be empty. So inside the toolbox we have the control group itself called as validation control. The validation now I need is the required field validator. So drag and drop the required field validator, and the error message what you want to display, that you have to give it here. Field not to be empty. And then I need to specify this required field validator is going to validate which control of my web page. So for that you have a property called as control to validate. So this validator is going to validate the text box 1. So I'm going to give that name of the text box. So this required field validator is going to validate the text box 1. So now we'll just save and run the code. So it will be opening in your browser. So now the web page get loaded. So if I click the button, and again it will create a jQuery error. So to make this error to be disabled, a code to be added to enable the validation script inside our web config file. So go to our Solution Explorer. In the web config file, after the system.web, you add the app settings for the validation setting that enable the jQuery option. And now we will execute our application. So the web page get loaded. I am trying to click the button, so it is producing me an error, field not to be empty. So if I start to type the name, automatically the control or the error is disappearing, or if I leave it as empty, then I get an error, field not to be empty. And similarly, I am going with the next type of validation control, that is the compare validator. So I am going to add a break here. And now I am going to add two fields. One is for password and another one is for confirm password. So I go to the toolbox and I take the standard, take the label. The label I am going to keep it as password. And below that I am going to add a text box. And I'm going to add a break. Then I'm going to add another one label. And below the label, again I'm going to add one text box. And this label I'm going to keep the text as confirm password. And now these two fields I need to keep a same value, then only my compare validator will work. So I have to create a validator. So go and drag and drop compare validator. So in compare validator, I have to give the error message. Both fields to be same. Now the important parameters I have to add. The first parameter is the control to validate. So I want to validate for the text box 3. So I'm going to validate for the text box 3. And this text box value to be compared with whom? So for that I have a attribute called as control to compare. That I am going to put it need to be compared with the text box 2. So I just save it and again I will execute my web page. So now I am going to give a password 123 and here I am going to give something, so it is giving both fields to be same. If I give the correct password, so the error will disappear. And now I told about the validation summary. Okay, so this validation summary, where I can keep it, so I will add a break here, and the validation summary I am going to keep it after the button. So a break tag and then validation summary. The validation summary control displays all the error summaries, whatever you are getting in that particular web page, that will be displayed in the validation summary. So I just click this and I'm not going to enter anything in the text box. So I'm just clicking a button. So the summary of the errors of the web page will be displayed in the validation summary. So I'm going to give it 456. So both fields to be same. So this is the use of the validation summary. And the next validation control we are going to use is the range validator. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a label. The label I'm going to add, that I'm going to add is age. And then I'm going to add a text box. And after that, I am going to add a range validator. So range validator, I go in the validator, choose the range validator. So the value to be in the range. Value to be in the range. So I need to give an age between 18 to 35. So I want to include the attribute, which is the control to validate. So this control to validate is going to validate the text box 4. And I have to specify what is the range. So for that I have a property called as minimum value. the minimum value should be 18 and the maximum value should be 35. So my text box will allow only a values between minimum is 18 to 35. Less than 18 and greater than 35, it will throw an error. So now again we will execute the web page. We'll try to give the value which I am going to give 14. So it is giving the value to be in the range. So if I am giving a 19 and then the error. So this will allow the user to validate the controls without writing explicitly code to check that the particular fields are valid or not. The last control we are going to use is the regular expression validator. So I want to use with the phone number with the 10 digit. So to check with that, again I am going to my toolbox, taking a label, and the label I am going to have it with phone number, and followed by I am going to add a text box, and this text box I am going to enter only with the 10-digit phone number. If it is not satisfying the pattern, it has to throw an error. So the validation control I am going to use it as the regular expression validator. So regular expression validator I am going to give with phone number to be valid. That is in the 10-digit format. So the main thing, the important attribute is the control to validate. So which control I am going to do this validation? That is for the text box file. And then I have to tell what is my regular expression pattern. So I have to check with the parameter. The parameter is called validation expression. So the expression I want to put it here is 10-digit phone number. So 0 to 9, which can be repeated for 10 times. So that is my validation expression. So now again execute the entire web page. So we have now all the controls: required field validator and compare validator, range validator, and the regular expression validator. So if I click the button, the field not to be empty. So I'm going to give a value. So I'm entering the value. Okay. So now if I move to the next tab, the password and the confirm password 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So both fields to be same. Okay. So I'm going to give it 1, 2, 3 correctly. And then I'm going to use with the field age. So age should be in the range of 18 to 35. So I'm going to give 16, the value to be in the range. So I'm going to give the correct value in the range. Then phone number. If I'm giving just 1, 2, 3, the phone number to be valid. So I'm going to just give a 10-digit number. So everything is correct. So your validation control pass all the inputs. I hope you understand how to use the validation controls in the ASP.NET. Thank you.